action with the idea, once again, of laying out what you call, in your society, coincidence or synchronicity. For in this way, you will find that what we will specify within the interaction this evening of your time will be a simplification according to the idea and the understanding of the mechanisms that allow your life to work. Things in your vernacular, in your consciousness, are now accelerating again, and in this way, we will find that at this time it will be, to use your terminology, important to us that you have a clear understanding as to your control of your lives. So in this way, we will discuss some of the exemplification of the idea of synchronicity and outline and delineate and define in a very straightforward, as you say, simplified manner, exactly how you can utilize your understanding of this concept to recognize that you are and always have been in control of your lives. Now, I have discussed with you many times the idea of coincidence, synchronicity, that the idea that is nothing happens by accident, but simply that what you are recognizing is overlapping incidents, coincidence, that describe and define the patterns and paths you have chosen yourselves to be. Now we will have defined the idea of synchronicity as this, and delineate a little further in clarification. Synchronicity, coincidence, is your conscious perception in a physiological, time-track, spatial reality of the simultaneous manifestation of the multi-dimensional existence of all. In this way, we will now, through your examples of day-to-day existence, indicate the following idea: that synchronicity is your recognition, your conscious recognition, that all the events, all of the objects, all of the relationships, all points of view, all perceptions, all interactions, are all one thing. One thing. Every single thing that you experience, every differentiation that you create in your reality, is the same one thing from a different point of view. The same one thing, manifesting itself simultaneously as the illusion of many things. Everything is one thing. One. Therefore, to put it in your quote-unquote practical terminology, observe the following. Give yourself the opportunity to recognize that what we will now begin to delineate is that in order to understand consciously that you are in control of your life, you need to do but two things. And that is it. We will render everything we have discussed with you to date, concepts of ideology, belief, emotion, thought, perception, perspective, interaction, into two ideas that you can utilize as the mechanism itself of recognizing that you are in control of creating your reality. Two things, very simple. 1, 2. The first. Now, before we continue, I will ask you a favor, may I?
Yes.
This is, again, because of the acceleration, because of what you have allowed us to do and to function as, in reflections to you of what you are capable of, it is important to us at this time that you fully understand what we are saying. If you do not, say so. For we would wish that you have full understanding before we continue. If at any time you feel like, so to speak, interrupting, do so. Do not feel embarrassed or ashamed. The idea is coming to you as you need to understand it. If you feel so inclined as to inquire for further clarification, do so. It will not serve your purpose to not understand. All right?
Okay.
Thank you. Number one. Everything is synchronicity. Everything is synchronicity. Now, what this means is that as you are driving, as you are walking, as you are doing anything in your day-to-day lives, remember this. Every single object, every single person, every single sound, every single interaction, every crack in the street, every leaf on the tree, the number of the leaves, the color of the leaves, is all there for a reason. No accidents. No accidents. Now, recognize, therefore, that while certain interactions, while certain objects, while certain people may not have a strong, direct relationship to you in a particular given moment, it does not mean that they are still not there for a reason. They may have, quote-unquote, more conscious meaning to the person just ahead of you, the person just behind you. But because you are there too, you are playing the part of being willing to act and interact with all the other individuals so that their degree of importance as to their relationship to what is going on is also enhanced by your presence. Just like your degree of importance is enhanced by theirs. Are you following me?
Yes. Say more what you mean, degree of importance.
We will get to that. I'll tell you. The idea, therefore, once again, is to simply recognize, to use an analogy that you have shared with us quite often. If you are driving in your car and someone, quote-unquote, cuts you off, if you are in a traffic jam, if you are in a situation that you would usually, typically label as something negative, recognize once again, nothing happens by accident. Nothing. Nothing. Every single thing. If you are in your traffic jam, the car next to you, how much farther ahead or behind it is, what color it is, what way the light from the sun strikes it, none of it is by accident. None of it. Therefore, begin to be fascinated by how well orchestrated everything is that you are participating in on what you would call an unconscious level. You are drawing into your life every single particle of dust, every single atom that is there. Everything. No exceptions. No exceptions. The way somebody may look at you, the way you look at them, what they are wearing, no accidents. It all plays a part in the idea that everything is one single event, experienced from different points of view simultaneously. One event. The idea of degree of importance is simply to recognize how you relate to the event. In other words, you may find that, let us say, someone is walking down the street and they are wearing a certain color shirt, as you say. Now, you may simply recognize it. You may simply recognize it as synchronicity. You know that it has a reason. You may explore the idea of the relationship for you and simply find that it does not bear any, quote-unquote, reason that would stand out as anything important to you at the moment. However, the person behind you may get more importance out of it than you do. But simply, that does not mean you cannot recognize that the reason for why you are there is still no accident. For you are part of the enhancement of the entire experience for the other person. You follow me? That is what we mean by degree of importance. Look at it this way. Another analogy. You have the idea of a rotating propeller. You understand?
Yes.
It rotates at certain frequency, certain rate. You have what you call a strobe light. You follow me?
Yes.
If you are in a dark room, if the propeller is rotating, if your strobe light, along with everyone else's strobe light, is synchronized, synchronicity, synchronized to the rotation of the propeller, such that when you decide to turn your strobe light on and it begins to flash, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, whenever you decided to turn it on, that will be the first position that you will see the propeller in. You follow me so far?
Yes.
Recognize that because your light is synchronized to the rotation of the propeller, that will be the only position you see the propeller in. You follow me?
Yes.
Now, if you were independently able to see your particular synchronization, and someone else was independently able to see theirs, so that your strobe and their strobe did not clash, so to speak, then they would be observing the same propeller in a different position. Same propeller. Different aspect entirely. The same single event that appears to be completely and totally different. Simply because of the rate and the timing of the frequency of each individual strobe. Everything is the same thing. Everything is the same thing. The only reason you see the same one thing as different is because of the rate and the timing of your strobe of consciousness in physical reality. Everything is one thing. That is the first point. Everything is synchronicity. One thing. Everything is synchronicity. Everything is there for a reason. That is point number one. Point number two. Act upon the opportunity that your conscious recognition of everything as synchronicity brings you with integrity. Act upon all opportunity synchronicity brings you with integrity. That is all you have to do. One, recognize that everything is synchronicity. Two, act upon it in that way with integrity. Those two ideas is all you need to do to create the life you desire. That is it. Period. That is all there is to physical reality. 1, 2. Everything is synchronicity. Act like it. That is all there is to be in complete harmonic resonance with your conscious understanding of all that is as it expresses itself as physical reality. 1, 2. Acting like it will always generate more conscious awareness of number 1, which will always then give you more opportunity to act like it. Point number 2. They are self-perpetuating. 1 breeds 2, breeds 1, breeds 2, breeds 1, breeds 2, accelerating into infinity.
What do you mean by with integrity?
Thank you. The recognition, to put it in colloquial terms, that if you are aware that everything is one thing, and you are a part of it, then you recognize that you have everything you need to be anything you want without having to force yourself upon anyone else to do it. Integrity, integrated, integral, integrated, blended, one.
Wholeness.
Wholeness. You do not have to force your opinions on anyone else. You do not have to dominate anyone else to get what you think you deserve. Act upon the opportunities that synchronicity gives you with integrity, knowing that you are as complete as you need to be, to act upon it in exactly the way you need to get exactly what you need. You do not have to, in that sense, rely upon anyone else to do it for you, or force them to. Act with integrity upon the opportunity you create, and it will always, always perpetuate more of number one. Always. Because you, in acting integrally with all that is, with synchronicity, will always maintain your connection to it consciously. Acting outside of integrity separates you and stops the process between 1 and 2. And does not allow the acting to generate conscious awareness of synchronicity. Understand, everything is synchronicity, including negative synchronicity. You always attract the ideas you believe in that way that you are willing to act upon in the manner that you are willing to act upon them. Negative occurrences are still synchronicity because they are fulfillments of your own negative beliefs. You are acting in that manner. What we are simply saying is that acting with integrity, in positive attitude, always will consciously maintain the connection. Consciously. That is what will allow you to perceive the connection as an acceleration and not a stagnation.
So it could accelerate if it's negative or positive by your recognition?
In a sense, but the idea is simply that if it is negative acceleration, you will find that you, first of all, consider it destruction and perceive the effect in that form. And also, it may not allow you to recognize the reasons for the destruction, for the negativity, because you are disassociating from the fact that everything is synchronicity. And then it leads to the question, why is this happening to me? Negative synchronicity creates victimhood.
And so recognizing it, what you said?
Recognizing it is forming a conscious, positive connection. Because once you recognize what it is, you know you are in control of it. Then you can choose what you prefer by acting accordingly on the understanding that everything is synchronicity, and then acting accordingly through integrity. You follow me? That is all there is to it.
Do you mean that by everything is synchronicity, that each aspect, as you enumerated them, are reflections of the same idea?
Yes. They are all the same thing. All of them are the same fundamental one thing that you call creation or God. They are all the same thing. And it is holographic. Each contains everything. It is all. Everything is all. Every separate concept is its own thing and its own version of the one same thing.
In large concept, it makes sense and I can understand it, relate to it, and feel.
Look at it this way then.
But
are you familiar with the idea you call cloning?
Yes.
Then recognize that each and every cell in your body contains information for a whole body.
Right.
That is the idea. Each and every single separate concept is simply a different manifestation of the same one thing.
So when I try to apply that idea to the teeny-weeny little events going on throughout the course of a day as we measure time, I have difficulty understanding.
Again,
all of those.
Do not forget that we are not saying that conscious recognition of everything as synchronicity means you will be able to consciously analyze every single aspect to your conscious understanding. That is not the point.
Then what's the point?
The point is to recognize that some aspects will have, as we have said, varying degrees of relative importance to you. The ones that do not have a great degree of importance, you will not form a conscious analytical recognition of.
For sure.
One moment.
But then how do we...
It is, once again, a matter of trust.
I can trust, but are you saying that we will simply it will be obvious and
Yes.
you will know which ones have the,
Yes.
have the highest degree of importance?
Yes. In other words, what a coincidence. Just what I needed. Right place, right time. Everything else doesn't matter.
But you're saying that everything else, although it may not matter, is also a manifestation of the same thing that the coincidence
Yes.
is?
And it will appear that another variation of those same circumstances will matter to someone else. Though it may not matter so much to you. But it is all the same one thing.
Also, aren't you saying the point isn't the conscious recognition of the symbolism? You can just reinforce that it means something and you will
Yes.
let yourself know what
Yes,
it means.
the point is not the conscious recognition. The point is to simply act as if you simply know that what is occurring is synchronicity. And what stands out is what you need to know. The way you need to know it is the way you need to know it. Period. The way you know it is it. That is the way you need to know it.
Didn't you in fact say that it might be detrimental to analyze everything?
In a sense, you can recognize that many times you will allow the synchronicity in your life, and you will have made a decision to not become analytical about it, because becoming analytical about it may not allow you to live the experience. You will turn it back into pieces instead of allowing it to be one thing. Cause and effect, the same event. It's all one thing. All of it.
So you're moving from a knowingness instead of analyzing.
Yes. Trust. That is knowingness. You simply take it for granted that everything you are perceiving is synchronicity. No accidents. And the way you relate to it is the way you need to. Plain and simple. That is all there is to it.
What about those times when there's a tremendous amount of synchronicity and everything, and you're acting on that, and then nothing happens?
Again, that is a contradiction. Recognize that you are postulating two completely different viewpoints of synchronicity, a positive and a negative one. Recognize that it will always manifest in whatever way it needs to. And again, it may not be consciously obvious so that you can take advantage of the way it has manifested. For to you, if you were to become consciously aware of certain ideas, you would not be able to move on it. You would be fixated on the mechanism. It would be as if all of a sudden you became fascinated with the concept itself, analytically, of being able to drive a car and forgot how to simply get in and drive. Because you were too fixated on, well, this piece, or how does it relate to that piece, or how does it relate to that piece, or how does it, how. And in the meantime, you're late for your appointment. You follow me? That is putting it into an analogy, but it will have the same effect. Many times you will simply recognize that synchronicity will occur in the appropriate timing. The idea of saying it doesn't happen is a judgment call. You are putting expectations on how you think it should have happened. That is not allowing it to be synchronicity. You follow me? Synchronicity is what it is. The way it is. The way it is. Not, well, it should have been this. Well, it didn't happen. I didn't see what I expected. Should have been. The reflection of synchronicity I have a definition of.
Well, then if we have no understanding of the outcome.
You do have an understanding in the way you need to. Conscious analysis is not the only definition of understanding. You follow me? And recognize again, the second you act like everything is synchronicity, the more obvious it will become.
If everything happens as it is meant to, does that mean that there is a sort of plan?
Yes and no.
Within a plan there is free will.
Yes. And it is both simultaneous. Again, because time and space are illusions and are also synchronicity. Time-space is also simply another manifestation of one thing. It all occurs now. It all occurs here, for lack of a better term.
Bashar, do you understand what you're talking about?
Yes, because that is how our civilization lives. As we have described you, that is why we do not need the idea of the tools of government or economic systems. Because we allow synchronicity to always let us know that we are interacting with exactly the beings we need to be interacting with and sharing the services with those beings, and they are sharing services with us that are the only services at that moment that we need.
Mm-hmm.
You follow me?
I follow what you're saying, yes.
Now,
what about creating something that you envision that you wish to create? How does that function?
Again, as we have described, acting like everything is synchronicity with integrity means following your excitement.
Mm-hmm.
You will then be allowing yourself to use synchronicity in a positive way.
What about those times when you don't follow it? There are often times where you feel like...
Again, you may be creating the idea of beliefs of negative synchronicity, and it may not let you know that you are following it, but in a negative way. Recognize the idea as this. If you do not act according to your own instincts, what you know to be true for you, then all you are saying is that you have a belief that in not doing so, you will create a reality that will force you to recognize that that is what you are doing, which very often in your society can manifest in a negative reality. In other words, I didn't follow my feelings. I find, therefore, that I still, quote unquote, hate my job, hate this, hate that. You follow me? You always reinforce the choice you make.
It's a setback.
Not a setback, no. For in this way you are simply giving yourself the opportunity to learn that the choice you made is what the reality is that you are experiencing. And it gives you that much more opportunity to recognize that if you redefine your choice, that will be the reality you will experience. Since you are experiencing flawlessly the reality you believe you will experience now. You follow me?
Yes.
Done!
This brings me to a question I've been wondering about for a long time. Everything's happening right now, right? Then why can't the future be predicted?
It is, but not in the terms you call prediction. Again, recognize the idea of the propeller and the strobe lights. The idea, as we have said, is not so much that you are predicting a future, you are sensing the energy at the present that is most likely to occur because it has the greatest degree of energy behind it. The strobe light is on that particular setting at the time the sensing or prediction is made. The prediction itself might change the setting of the strobe light. Understand what your physicists now understand. You cannot make a conscious decision that doesn't affect the reality you are deciding about. You follow me? Every thought changes the reality you are thinking of. Therefore, so-called predictions are only sensings of the energy most likely to manifest at the time the prediction is made. The prediction itself can change the energy. If what has been sensed has a great deal of energy momentum behind it, it will in your terms be unlikely to change. But it is not the future that you have predicted, it is the present. And it simply doesn't change to the point where it manifests. You follow me?
A little. I'll chew on it.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
I have
the past, the present, and the future is all now.
Right.
Understand it again this way. You have a radio, yes?
Yes.
You have the idea of being able to tune to different programs, yes? Just because only one program at a time is coming through your speaker doesn't mean all the other programs aren't there.
Right.
And you can make a prediction that if you tune the dial you will get another program. That is making a prediction. But it is only because you are aware of the fact that the program already exists that you can do so. It is the same thing. You follow me?
Yeah.
One moment.
Could I express my reality by way of answering her to see if you would agree with my view of it?
Proceed!
If everything is happening now, there are there's only the present, the past and the future are created out of the present. There are an infinite number of possible futures. And therefore, they exist, all of them exist right now. All of them. So the question is not whether they are there, because they are. The question is which one you will wind up choosing.
Perfect.
Well then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I was saying, why talk about the future at all, since there is no future?
It is all present.
It's all present, but I think Eric really answered my question. Yeah.
Could I ask you a question about certain human emotions which switch on when you seem to deviate from this integrity? Can I have just brief descriptions of these? What is anger?
Anger is alignment with what you know to be true for you. Anything that lasts longer than 10 to 15 of your seconds is no longer anger but judgment.
Okay. What is fear?
Fear is the recognition that you may be operating on a frequency, once again, that does not necessarily represent an alignment with what you find to be true for you, and it adds energy in a certain way to accelerate you and bring you into the present. The negative effects that fear can have, again, are only the judgment of the fear. That it is something that does not serve you.
And what is grief?
Grief, again, is the judgment that you are not connected to a portion of yourself. That you can, quote-unquote, lose something somewhere, as if there were somewhere for something to be lost.
Very good. What is resentment?
It is, in your terms, connected to the idea of jealousy, envy. It is a judgment upon oneself that one does not contain what one sees in another, and does not think it attainable. But recognize from our point of view, if you can see it, you have to contain it.
What is loneliness?
Again, the idea of separation of yourself from the rest of all that is that you are. The belief that while you are unto yourself one idea, one universe, a separate universe in that way, that the idea does not contain automatically the polarity that you are connected to everything and can never be alone.
Very good. Well, the last one is on something that seems to be a chronic condition rather than a temporary condition. I have two girls in my office. One of them understands insurance perfectly. The other one doesn't understand it at all. So she calls herself stupid. What is stupidity and intelligence, which seem to be fixed during one lifetime?
Thank you. In this way, it is not fixed. But the idea simply is, at any given moment, what an individual relates to as a vibration. For recognize that someone who is, quote-unquote, stupid at one thing is brilliant at something else. The idea is simply selectivity, the recognition of the vibration that in your terms truly excites you and doesn't.
Okay, but...
It can also be a conscious or an unconscious refusal to recognize that you are complete and do contain all the information you need to contain at any given moment.
That seems to be fixed for one lifetime. You don't get...
It can be, but it does not have to be. And in particular, because this is the transformational life upon your planet, it is less likely that it is fixed for the entire life.
Why does the person create that problem, though? That, for her, is a very big problem.
Yes,
she doesn't see
because they wish to experience what it is like to be limited to that extent. Because it is one of the experiences you can participate in within all that is. And it also may be serving other individuals to allow those other individuals, through caring and compassion, to learn that they can be teachers as well.
What is judgment?
Judgment is separation, limitation. It is the invalidation of the different components within all that is. The unequalizing of the different components that you perceive within all that is.
But can you make a positive...
Preference. Preference is simply recognizing the vibration that relates to you. Judgment is the invalidation of what you do not prefer as something less than what you have chosen. You can also simply have an observation, so to speak. That does not have to be a judgment. You can simply observe that someone may be utilizing negative energy. That does not have to be a judgment. Because you simply can recognize that you prefer, say, in this case, the positive energy, and their preference of negative energy is what they need to learn. So that is simply an observation, not a judgment.
But if you tell them that they are manifesting negative energy, isn't that a judgment?
That can still be an observation, as long as the idea in sharing that with them is not an encroachment upon their rights and not an enforcement upon your behalf that you think they should change. Because it would be better if they did.
Okay.
Then that is a judgment. The idea of judge not lest ye be judged is that when you judge another, you become the vibration of judgment yourself. It is not that you are being judged by something outside. There is no outside. Follow me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bashar?
Hey!
Yes. A friend of mine asked me to ask you a question tonight, and actually it's perfect. It's all in line with what we're talking about.
Oh, what a coincidence!
Her name is Teresa Levitt, and she asked me, first of all, the way she put it is she would want to have healing from you, and it's healing of an emotional level. And what's happening now is she is recognizing the synchronicity in her life. However, while she recognizes things that are happening and of a negative nature and why they happening and where they're stemming from in her past, she's having, and I'll use the word difficulty because that's the way it feels to her, difficulty in releasing those negative beliefs about herself so that she can create observability in her life.
Then ask her what she gets out of them. How do they serve her to maintain the negative beliefs?
Well, she knows that too.
All right.
She gets a certain amount of attention.
All right. Then simply allow her recognitions in her own good time. Recognize that our perception of this individual is that she is on the threshold of allowing herself to know she can change. We have sent energy to that effect. It is up to her to use it. We cannot force the change upon her in this way. In this way, simply allow her to know that the idea of maintaining the belief that something is difficult to change is also a choice.
Right.
Like anything else. Ask her what she gets out of it. And in this way, then simply recognize that if she is going to enjoy being miserable, it will continue.
Is there any, I've gone through this myself, and I've found that I have released things, and I guess that...
Then you yourself can be a reflection for this individual as well.
It's like, I guess, sometimes we look for some magic word or something that will allow us to release, like just tell me how to do it, We form some kind of such habit that even though we know there's another way of being, it's such a habit, it almost seems like we use the word difficult. I know what you said, and I understand it. I'm trying to...
you want a magic word?
Yeah.
2 words? Repeat after me.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
You will always be able to say that. How's that?
That's good. What I'm working with right now is wanting to assist her in a way.
Then say, I am.
Okay. All right.
And be it. That is how you can assist others, by being fully what you are.
And then by her saying, I am, will be assistance to her and
yes.
to others.
And for then she will cease to judge the different judgments she has created within herself.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Bashar, I would like to address an objective of developing an ability to communicate with dolphins with the same degree of clarification that we're communicating to each other now.
Go ahead.
And along that line, I will, and am. Along that line, would you please detail for me what you consider would be a workable approach to accomplishing that objective?
Emotion.
Expound a little more, please.
Feeling, sharing, touching, physical presence with the dolphin.
As opposed to linguistic articulation.
You can do that as well.
Do they use a language, an articulate language like we do? Or
in a sense, yes.
In a sense, what sense? Expound.
It is simply not the idea of what you call your alphabet in that way, but it is in your terms acoustic.
What is it?
What you perceive to be the sonic vibrations that they create.
And do those sonic vibrations represent specific packages of thought that our words do?
Okay.
And how would we identify, what are ways in which we could identify the thoughts that those particular sounds represent?
By spending time with them and exchanging concepts in such a way that you can differentiate what they mean and what you mean by a simple object that you both can identify.
I see. Similar in the way that you would teach a child by mimicry. If you held up an object to a dolphin, would he make the appropriate sound?
Yes.
Do you do that naturally?
Of course.
Very good.
It's been done.
Please tell me. Okay. Their methods of communication. How are their methods of communication different from ours?
Again, in this way, you will find that they have perhaps more group concepts than you. And also, the range of the acoustics will be abnormally high and low for you. For many of what their concepts relate to in this way will take them in a range beyond your hearing range. And thus you may not even be aware sometimes of when they are talking, unless you can feel it. Which you can. Recognize and remember once again that telepathy is an empathic, emotional phenomenon. And it is also, once again, synchronicity. Now, allow me to outline, clarify. We recognize within your society that many times when an individual says, well, something is this, many of you still take it as, well, it is that this exists within that. Now, you may take me quite literally in the translation that is coming through into your language. The universe is synchronicity. Synchronicity is the universe. And what we mean by this as an even closer connection, and using an analogy that would be not even as close, is to say, well, what is wood? Well, wood is a tree. A tree is wood. Now, it is many other things in that way, but that is a closer analogy to what we mean when we say the universe is synchronicity, and synchronicity is the universe. It is not that the ideas of belief, emotion, thought, ESP, telepathy, clairvoyance, psychokinesis, all of these ideas are all manifestations of synchronicity. All of them. Therefore, relate to the dolphin as another expression of you. As another expression of the synchronicity you are both representative of. Then your interactions will be only the interactions that will illuminate what you desire to know.
Feel yourself as the dolphin.
Feel yourselves as the synchronicity of the interaction between you, and you will understand what the interaction is at any given moment. Whether it has a consciously analytical understanding or not does not matter.
Didn't fully follow that.
Consider yourselves to be the interaction that is going on between you. Become the synchronicity of your relationship, and you will always understand what that relationship is, which is only another way of saying, I know what you are talking about. I know what you are saying. I understand you. All those statements are other ways of saying that you become the relationship between you. The interaction between the two supposed objects of the interaction. It is the interaction itself, the synchronicity, the exchange that creates the object interacting, not the other way around. Therefore, become the interaction, empathize with the interaction itself, and you will be able to feel what is being said.
So you trust yourself to be the interaction?
Yes!
Okay. Did your civilization evolve from a verbal language to a telepathic one?
Yes.
What were the primary steps in the evolution?
What I have just described. The recognition that as we discovered synchronicity, we allowed it to be real. And we understood that all of the connections, the interconnectedness of all, and the holographic nature of all, we allowed that to be our real reality by acting as if it was.
So you're acting. So we wish to develop more confidence in our ability to communicate telepathically. You're simply saying that we should act as if we were communicating telepathically.
Yes! And recognize again that the idea may be most closely expressed not by a mental activation in your terms, but by an emotional one. Because the emotional one is a vibration that encompasses, quote-unquote, more of your being than simply mental activation does.
Understood.
In other words, once again, it is not so much the idea, although this is what occurs as well, that to know someone is to love them, but to love them is to know them.
Very nice.
That is telepathy.
Very nice. Currently, much of our scientific community will not accept or acknowledge telepathy or imagination as real.
That is because it is still to them an analytical process.
Okay, how would you suggest that we go about making these approaches more acceptable to the scientific community?
It is, in your terms, becoming acceptable to many individuals, and in this way, again, our only suggestion is to simply act like it and afford them an opportunity to see it in action. For what they are doing now is trying to learn about a process by stopping it and not doing it.
How will they be able to perceive that the action is correct, though? They're using very rigid methods of perception.
When enough individuals act that way, they will get the picture.
They will feel it also.
Yes, of course. They will see it all around them. And finally say, well, what's this all about?
Okay.
Again, understand that the idea of consciousness originates, so to speak, to use that term, outside a time track. Everything that can be analyzed can only originate inside a time track. Therefore, once they include consciousness into their equations, they will get the picture. And it will instantaneously begin to activate the series of events that will reinforce itself into their reality. Synchronicity. Understand, many of your so-called scientists have utilized synchronicity to, quote-unquote, achieve the understandings of physics that they have.
They just don't know it.
Some of them do.
Currently,
the ones I was speaking of were the ones that were conscious of it on their own terms.
Currently, I have some friends that are conducting some experiments with dolphins. What they're doing is they are putting together a sort of a computer keyboard, and the dolphins can punch in various actions that result in a change in their environment, such as water temperature, heat, food being presented, this sort of thing. Is there a method by which they can accelerate the learning process?
Only by doing what occurs to them. Again, the idea is that we already are aware that there are individuals in your society that have taken some of these steps. If you wish to join them, then take the same steps in your own way.
So it's a boldness with trust.
And a doing.
Yeah.
In other words, you can perceive and interact with dolphin consciousness from where you are sitting, if you are so inclined to do it that way. But from what we are perceiving you are describing, it is unlikely that one of them is going to come swimming by in your living room. Therefore, go to a place where you can interact together, or create such a place.
Well, that's what this is the place I'm speaking of, where some friends of mine are doing.
Then go and relate as you will. And simply understand that it is not so much that you are teaching them, but that you are teaching each other. For there are going to be many things that are going to occur between you where you might think they are just being stubborn, and what they are trying to do is get you to learn something in return. So do not be, how shall I put it, humanistically chauvinistic. Follow me.
Yes, very much so. In fact, certain of this line of research was stopped, prevented, because of considerations that it would not be acceptable to the public. For instance, what I'm speaking about is occurring in Epcot, which is an experimental prototype community of tomorrow in Disney World. We have a seized pavilion. And the idea that the public would not, quote-unquote, accept telepathy or experiments in telepathy between dolphins prevented this type of exhibit, demonstration.
Are the dolphins going to be there?
Yes, they are there.
Then telepathy will occur. Regardless of what the expectation is in that way.
But how could we overcome the reluctance to present to the public this as as a possibility? Why don't we? It would be nice to put up an exhibit saying, "Please feel free to telepathically communicate with these dolphins. It is possible, but there is a restriction."
We will let you figure out how to come to terms with all the individuals with whom you are interacting.
I already have, but I'm trying this very much. Because one of the ways in which these interactions is going to occur is by sending them this particular tape we've already established an interchange in doing.
Let me put it this way, if you will. Perhaps this may or may not, does not have to, make a difference. From our point of view, in looking at your planet, if we were to, let us say, scan your world in search of what you would recognize as alien thinking species, we would find two on your planet, the humans and the dolphin whales. Therefore, recognize that what you are doing is forming a communication link with an alien species on your very own world. Thus, recognize that your world, in many ways, is unique, and unique in one more way, in that the majority of what you would call alien races on other planets bear a closer resemblance in third density reality to a humanoid life form. You are more unique in having one right in your own backyard that is not as close to humanoid as many alien races you will encounter beyond your world. Therefore, it is a rich opportunity for exchange of true difference between different alien environments.
So I'm feeling a little bit like a ping pong ball lately.
All right. That can be an enjoyable game. Even for the balls.
Even for the balls. I'm wondering if you could help me kind of level it out to the point of being a little more comfortable.
I will help you when you understand you don't need help.
I felt that way for a couple of weeks.
Then the you were then is not the you are now, so do not say you felt that way.
Right.
Someone else did. Why are you choosing to feel the way you feel?
Well, that's part of the question, because I feel a definite duality.
All right. What is wrong with that? Does that not give you a unique point of view about yourself? Can you not learn from it? Can you not enjoy it? Can you not integrate and absorb what you are learning from this dual perception of yourself in a positive way? Can you not assume that every situation is fundamentally neutral and choose to go at it with a positive attitude so it will have a positive effect instead of a negative attitude so it will create a negative effect?
Yes.
Am I being of help?
Yes.
Well.
Yes, I can do that.
All right. Do you think that will assist you?
Yes.
Why do you think so?
Because,
Always.
because it
You know what? We can't
implies,
hear you back here.
because it implies that
Thank you for pointing out the need for boldness.
okay. Synchronous.
Project!
It implies that I forgot what it implies.
Good! Welcome to the moment.
Alright, okay, let me ask you a specific thing in which it implies that I don't have to worry about anything.
All right.
And one of the things that is happening that is still a little bit worrying is that I seem to have a strange sleep thing happening where I am falling asleep driving on the freeway.
That's...
And I've got
let's reinforce that one. Let's reinforce the negativity. All right. Oh, yes. We all know that's negative. Oh, yes, you are doing a negative thing.
I had myself completely covered with white light, so I was not afraid on that level. But what I'm wondering is...
Completely covered with white light. All right.
I covered myself in white light
Yes.
to protect myself because I was asleep on the freeway.
To protect yourself, which implies that you believe you need protection, which implies that you believe you can be harmed.
By large trucks when I was asleep on the freeway. It freaked out my mother.
All right.
You have to be more impressed by that.
All right.
Shine it off. It's okay.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are you fighting your own instinctive, natural schedule?
Well, I thought about that,
Yes.
and I remembered what you said about 2 to 4 o'clock being sleepy time, or being our low energy point.
In general.
In general. And I was not able to pinpoint these periods of suddenly becoming sleepy in terms of that general cycle.
So, are you going to take us literally, or are you going to follow your own instincts? Oh, it's not between 2 and 4 p.m. So, even though I am sleepy, I will wait until 2 to 4 p.m. because Bashar said I can only be sleepy between 2 and 4 p.m. So I will not stop and take a nap. Is that what you are saying? Are you giving me that much of your power?
No.
Well, all right then. What are you doing about your own instinctive schedule?
Well, I guess my instinctive schedule is that I should fall asleep at 55 miles an hour in a car on the freeway.
Are you missing the point? Why, in your estimation, were you falling asleep while you were moving?
Well, that's what I don't know, because this has never happened before. I'm not the kind of person that falls asleep on the freeway in broad daylight. And
when you fell asleep, you obviously were the kind of person. Do not contradict yourself. Perhaps you are not that kind of person now because, A, you are not on the freeway. At least I will assume we are not on the freeway. Now, the person you were then is not the person you are now. What you are being shown is this entire idea of disassociation. Now, recognize that you are quite all right. You did not get killed by a truck. You follow me?
Right.
Therefore, our first suggestion is to stop playing what if, and let's talk what is. All right? Now, as the you were then, was driving along the freeway and falling asleep, what were your feelings? What were your thoughts? Not connected to the idea of what would happen if you fell asleep. Just your general thoughts, your general feelings about yourself at that time.
Well, it was very strange because it was almost like it was strange because it was almost like I was going into a deep meditation.
All right. Very good. Very good. Very good. Now, what does meditation mean to you?
It means connecting with another density.
All right. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Now may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Does it mean disconnecting from this one? Is that what you have always thought meditation to mean?
Sometimes yes and sometimes no. Like most of the time I am semi-meditative.
All right.
And it's cool, you know, I can do both.
Cool. All right.
I can be third and fourth at the same time.
All right.
I can be bidensitive.
All right. Now, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. With regard to the synchronicity of having your mother present, what does it represent to you now?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well...
Do share, and speak up. You do not want them to fall asleep.
Okay. Yes. Oh, my goodness. I didn't make that connection. Yes, my mother always falls asleep. In fact, my mother was asleep. In fact, my mother falls asleep maddeningly. And I feel that she...
Yay.
I feel that she's sleeping her life away, so to speak.
I see. And so you falling asleep at the wheel, did you say freaked her out or woke her up?
She was asleep during the whole thing.
Yes.
Until I told her, I mentioned to her casually.
Yes.
After we had arrived, and I started to fall asleep.
Yes. And her reaction?
Was she freaked out.
So you mean she woke up?
She woke up. And then the next time we drove, she made sure that she stayed awake and kept talking to me.
Now you get the picture? Do you see the reflection that you were being of service to?
I was being of service to her.
Oh, come. And in this way, also yourself and the idea of your relationship to her, and what you think of her, and what you think of what she does, and what she thinks of what you do, and this and that, and showing her reflections of herself that are encapsulated within your feelings of her, and vice versa. Were you not acting out a scenario about her that bothered you, and allowing her to see how it affects you?
Yes.
All right then. Let it be obvious. Now, therefore, simply recognize, again, there is no what if. This is not the beginning of some dis-ease on which you fall asleep at the wheel now all the time. Now that you are in touch with the reasons, or at least some of them, for why you enacted that scenario as a reflection to her, you recognize the purpose that was served and recognize it can be served in other ways rather than in ways that are unconscious. You follow me? And therefore in ways that are not, quote-unquote, detrimental to your physical health. Sometimes you will find that you will share exciting incidents, coincidence with someone else, so that you both will wake up to what is happening between you. So you will shake yourselves, give yourselves some excitement in the relationships.
Yes.
Therefore, thank you for your sharing.
Thank you.
Guys?
The first thing I want to share is that I truly do trust you. I was realizing that.
I trust you too.
Thank you.
All of you.
Thank you.
The next.
Now they're going, what did he mean by that? I fully trust you to be who you are.
Exactly.
You cannot be anything else.
And that also means infinite possibilities.
Thank you.
Right. Whatever you do is all right. Because you're an infinite creator as I am.
We also trust the synchronicity of the interaction that we are together.
Marvelous.
That is what we trust.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you share a title for last week?
How about last week?
That's a good one.
How about ancient dreams?
Thank you.
Which is something that exists in musical arrangement in your society.
I know the same.
Georgia Philly.
Yes.
And in this way, you will find that some of the vibrations within that will also bring out some of the ideas you wish to explore. All right?
Thank you. And I have some
You
questions.
know, I will assume what tonight's title is. Thank you.
We already have one.
Synchronicity 2. Okay. I have some questions for John Sigowitz, who's from Dallas, Texas, and I'd like to ask these for him and his wife. He said, several years ago, in a spontaneous out-of-the-body journey to our planet, the Sun 1, I was greeted by an elder who addressed me by the name Arno. Could you offer any insights? Is this the name whose vibratory frequency represents my soul self? Whatever.
In a sense, for now, yes, it will do. There are also some other connections that we perceive, but it will do as a reflection to relate to from the point of view you are now as a physical being. It will assist in the blending of the vibration of your higher self with the physical being that you are.
Thank you. Second question. He wants to know if he will be channeling Arno soon.
Soon is a relative term.
Okay. All right. Third question.
Do not mean to be mysterious, but that is the answer.
Right. Thank you. And the third one is that you mentioned about 7.5 cycles, and in the projects that he's involved in, he wanted to know if you had, he's got 3 listed here, 7.524, 7.538, or 7.646 cycles per second.
What about it?
He wants to know if one of those is more accurate.
Not more accurate. They are all variations of the same thing with relationship to the fluctuations in the electromagnetic field. There is also a 7.86, and there are some other ones. In this way, simply recognize that the individual's own experimentation will allow there to be the arrival at an appropriate frequency, and that frequency will fluctuate to some degree anyway. It is not that it maintains an exact periodicity.
Fluctuation. Good. Last question is, he said that you had mentioned before, and he wanted to know how long you might predict that the length, how long will it be before organized religion as we know it will change?
Our perception is that definitely within the next 30 of your years. Within that, all is malleable. It can happen sooner. It's up to you.
Thank you. That's all.
Bashar?
Please. Yes.
How do you know? You have described this interaction as occurring not, you're here in your imagination creating this interaction, not, as we say, astral projection or whatever that is. So how do you know what's going on Earth?
Again, in this way, there are many different ideas and interactions and types of interactions that we partake of, but do not forget that astral projection, in a sense, is also within the dimension of imagination.
Okay, then that raises another question that I thought of when Steve asked the question from the guy in Dallas. He said he was out-of-body experience.
Okay.
Is there any such thing as, quote, out-of-body travel? Is it only imagination?
In your terms, because you have created a type of universe that has the different levels in it, yes, it is real.
There is such a thing as out-of-body.
What we are saying is that the entire idea of all of the levels in the universe is within the dimension of imagination. It is a creation.
Can you help me, perhaps other people here, get a better grasp on how it is? Because I think when you use the word imagination and relate it to this interaction occurring in your imagination, you use the word differently than we use here on this planet.
Correct.
Could you help us bridge the gap between?
It is simply, as I have said, that what occurs within our imagination is real. The idea is more akin to the idea of becoming, quote-unquote, lost in a daydream that seems to be so very real while it is going on. Then when your focus changes back to the reality you were experiencing before the daydream, only you think that you have come back to the real reality and were only imagining. To us, the daydream is just as real. I experience our interaction together as a very intense daydream. More, perhaps, what you might refer to as a hallucination. But I know it's real.
But it's your imagination which you are creating.
It is yours too. Again, it is a co-creation. It is synchronicity. It is the interaction itself that creates you and me.
You can ask the question a different way.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes.
What did I just say?
You said that it's the co-creation.
It is the interaction itself that creates you and me.
Yes, I understand that.
All right.
But my attention is on the fact that there is a, if you will, a collective daydream going on of all the beings on Earth.
Yes.
Without Bashar and Ethasani, there's a collective daydream going on.
Yes, of course.
Okay. How do you know the content of that collective daydream?
We do not know all portions of it.
But you know some portions. For example,
we know the portions that have to do with the synchronicity of our interaction with you, and only those portions.
So it's not possible for you to simply observe, or without interacting with us on these Monday, Tuesday, or
But
Wednesday.
do not forget, an observation is an interaction, and is actually subjective.
Okay, well,
I simply may not be talking about it, but it is still an interaction.
Well, how did you know about Chernobyl, for example, or the Challenger disaster?
In this way, the idea is that, once again, what you call the physical channel is a part of your daydream. And since we are connected, then anything the physical channel knows, we know. Because, again, by synchronicity, what the physical channel knows, we are supposed to know. So we can use it in that way.
Okay, independently of this process called channeling, do you engage in other data collection activities relative to
from time to time, yes. And that is one of the reasons why sometimes we can, quote-unquote, come through with information in conceptual form that the channel is not aware of, even though the terminology may not be according to what you use upon your planet. For in this way, we can have our observations about the ideas that we sense are going on in the portion of the daydream we share with you, whether the physical channel is aware of it or not.
Okay. Here's a corollary question. You told us that you physically appeared to the Orion entity, consciousness, in his reality, which is 175,000 years ago. Not a thought projection, but you physically appeared.
Both.
Both, but...
what you would call a physical appearance.
Which means that you travel, what we would say, travel through time.
I'm doing that now to talk to you.
But it's different because why have you chosen to channel rather than appearing to us physically?
I have explained that before.
Well, it has to do with we would think you were a god and we couldn't relate. But
it has more to do with the idea of our energy being so different. It would force an acceleration of your energy and force you to look at portions of yourself you are not ready to look at.
Okay. All right.
Now, the idea of our ability to appear to the so-called Orion in this way is simply because their society, even in the state that it was in that sense, in what you term to be negativity, still had within their society already the recognition that they could travel from planet to planet and interact with other races. That was not a shock.
One last question. Imagine being in the rafters of a building. You know what rafters are? And looking down in many different rooms, so you can look and see that there are lots of different rooms. And each of the rooms is a point in what we would call time. They're all simultaneous. And let's suppose that we're looking at the house that represents Earth. You're up in the rafters. You can see the past and the future for many potential pasts and many potential futures of Earth. And so you must be able to see some potential futures which you and your civilization, collective you, would prefer that we don't choose.
In a sense, therefore, simply recognize that it is our perception that because we are interacting with you, it is representative of the type of future you have already chosen.
Okay.
But only a select few.
You are the ones that make the selection. It is up to everyone. It is your individual choice. Recognize again that the individuals who have not chosen that vibration are not interacting with us.
That's true. They're not here. Right.
How is it possible to...
They certainly do not have to interact with us. They can interact with many different aspects of themselves to quote-unquote arrive at the same conclusion. An individual can be living in a fourth density state without ever having heard the term fourth density, metaphysics, or any of the other ideas that we are discussing. They can still live that way and have chosen the idea of living in that reality when it occurs, totally unconsciously.
So your presence here is not merely an origination on your part, but the very fact that you chose to come, we had something to do with it. Is that what you're saying?
As I have always said, you allow us to interact with you by choosing to interact with us in equal vibrations. That is the only way we can interact with you. And because of your willingness to recognize that you can now interact with us.
But if you're sitting in the rafters, being able to see a period of time on Earth when, let's suppose, no person on Earth...
One moment!
You can perceive...
One moment! Everything and every aspect that you are present to relate to has to do with you if you are willing to look at it that way. Integrate everything you are hearing from anyone else. Turn the question and the answers and the statements around for you and understand how you relate to it. If you find in this way that you have already related to it on your own terms, then simply recognize that if the idea is still something you are perceiving, then there may be other ways in which you can learn from it. Continue.
Okay. Sitting up in the rafters, you can observe one of the rooms. Let's suppose there is a room, a point in time, as we would call it, in which there was nobody on Earth that was prompted to interact with you. And then in another room...
we can observe that probability. Yes.
And then we can also look down and see the room which we experience as the now in which we're interacting with you.
Okay.
Oh, I answered my own question. They're going on simultaneously.
Yay!
There was never a point in time when you decided to interact. You're interacting here, but you're not interacting there.
Correct. We are simply with you the definition of the interaction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar.
Jay.
The point came up in the previous question about the dual nature of personality. If I have two sides to my personality, one of them I like and one of them I don't like.
One is positive, one is negative.
Okay, but let's say the negative side wants to eat too many Twinkies and it has all kinds of urges.
All right.
If I don't satisfy those urges, I feel discomfort.
All right.
If, however, I do satisfy those urges, I feel remorse. How do you resolve the dual nature of human personality?
By simply recognizing first and foremost that all polarity exists as one thing outside of the physical reality in your whole nature. And that you do not have to continue to see yourself as a dichotomy. You do not have to continue to see yourself as a struggle against or between this and that. But simply recognize that you have at any given moment free will of preference. If you recognize that the idea of the ingestion of those substances does not vibrate with the being that you would prefer to be, then if you act like that being, you will find you do not have the urge. Because you are not of the vibration that would contain the idea, have the urge to eat this. Define yourself.
Could that be called willpower or what?
Not willpower. Recognition. Ceasing of judgment of yourself. Ceasing of the belief. The changing of the belief that changing is difficult. The changing of the belief that having the concept of what you would prefer to be is not the same thing as being it when it is. The changing of the belief that having the concept still implies you have to do something to become the concept you have imagined, when imagining it is becoming the concept. Believing that is what will make the change.
So what is my so-called bad side showing to me?
That you have the opportunity to prefer something else. And to recognize that as soon as you conceive of what that something else is, you're it.
So the concepts I have of my so-called good side, which I prefer to be, is not really what I want to be, otherwise I would be it.
You are simply assuming that the concept itself, when you have it, is not being it, but it is. You are assuming that the concept of the good side, to have the concept, is not being it, but having the concept is being at the vibratory level of that good side. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to conceive of it. So again, you have to be attuned to the program to hear it coming through the radio. So if you find that you have the ability to even conceive of what the so-called good side or positive side is all about, you are at that moment tuned to that frequency, or that notion could never have occurred to you.
But why does this tremendous interference keep coming in?
Because you assume that when you conceive of it, it is not real. You assume that you have to do something special in order to make it real.
To stay on the station, you mean?
Yes. You are the one that is flipping the dial. When you have flipped the dial to the point where you can perceive what this so-called positive side is like, leave the dial there.
What if I'm sitting there and suddenly a Twinkie switches on?
You are missing the point. The station that you will be tuned to does not advertise Twinkies. So it will never occur to you. The urge won't be there. Understand, you are contradicting yourself.
Yes.
You are thinking that one being contains both of these urges. No. When you are the vibration of the positive side, you only contain what is relevant to that you. If you are finding yourself experiencing the urges of the Twinkie, you are no longer the other you. You are the you that can experience the urge of the Twinkie.
Yeah, but how do you hold that? I find it difficult to hold that.
That is your belief. To say, this is the concept itself, understand it. Your statement, I find it difficult to hold that, is a belief. So it is its own reality. So that is what you get. A reality in which you are a being that finds it difficult to hold a concept.
So you merely assume the viewpoint.
Yes. Act like it. Assume that if you can conceive of it at the moment of conception, that is how you are born. You give birth to that being. And that is the only being that exists. Now understand, you may use the idea again that we have shared with some of you, the library analogy. As an integrated being, you have the ability to be cognizantly aware of, while still being the concept that you are, of all the other probable realities that exist. You can have the definition, my reality is what I am, and it contains the ability to be what I know myself to be, while at the same time being aware of all of the other probable realities I know I am not. You follow me?
Yeah.
Therefore, the idea and the analogy is as if you are a library. You go into the library. You can read every book on the shelf. The one about Twinkies, the one positive, the one negative. Only the one you make the conscious choice to check out of the library becomes your reality. Otherwise, it is not a matter of having to fight against the urge. You simply have the type of reality that says you can think about the idea that such a probable reality exists, but that's not the idea you are. You know the library is there, but you didn't check out that book.
So the fixity of the human condition, as I see it, I see that most people are fixed.
What you consider to be the fixedness is something that you believe to be real. That is the only reason you experience the human condition as fixed. Because of the definition that it is. You follow me?
But what is at what point do you go off the rails?
Never. Never.
Okay.
You are never off your path because you are never on a path. A path is what you are. You can't be off yourself. You are not on a path. A path is what you are. You can't be off yourself. Everything you do, everything is an opportunity to decide what you prefer. Everything. You can learn from everything. Every situation is fundamentally neutral. Your attitude towards the neutral situation will determine the effect that you create in your life. The idea that you can have an urge to eat a Twinkie is a neutral situation. It does not come with any power other than what you put into it. It is simply a string of words, if you wish to look at it that way. You empower it. You power it up. Oh yes, the concept of that concept, Twinkie, that creates urges that I cannot fight. You have just written the script and decided to act it out. By imposing definitions into a fundamentally neutral series of props.
How does birth and death fit into this concept though? Let's say my next door neighbour doesn't have this urge.
Yes.
And he never has the urge, but I do have the urge.
So, knowing that your next door neighbor never has the urge is an indication for you of a reality that you can also choose for yourself. That may be why that neighbor is there reflecting that reality to you. Perhaps you are reflecting the same thing back, that he can choose to have an urge if he wants to.
You make good neighbors. But I guess my question really is has it anything to do with a particular lifetime?
Only in the most general of senses. Certainly not with the degree of specificity of whether you eat a Twinkie or not.
No, but that's a ridiculous example. But I just see
it is not a ridiculous example, but in this way, simply the overall idea of any predestination is only expressed in physical life in the most general terms. In other words, let us say the idea of what you are discussing falls under the general category that you are predestined to explore of self-empowerment and the creation of what you prefer. So you are using Twinkies as your...
With density that have that experience polarity, they're experiencing positive and negative as but
Yes.
But as we move on to
You only experience the coin. The idea of the oneness of the coin. And do not so much see it as two sides, but recognize that you need the whole coin in order to buy your Twinkie.
both the positive and negative are in harmony.
Yes. Blended into one concept. Male, female, one thing. A soul is not both male and female. It is neither. It is one thing. It can express itself in that polarity in physical reality. But it is not that it becomes a blended thing separated. The male-female polarities simply only exist from a physiological reference point of view and do not exist within the combined soul. The soul to itself is one thing, neither male nor female. One thing. You follow me?
So you're saying that neither negative or positive...
The concept of negative and positive polarity is one of the defining terms of physical reality. It only comes into existence as physical reality does. Or as different levels that contain that idea come into existence. The idea of the unbroken oneness is not so much literally that it contains an actual side-by-side cohesive interaction with the polarities you experience. It is simply one thing that can create itself to become different things. For there are many different universes that express the unbroken wholeness of the soul when it chooses to differentiate itself in many other ways other than the idea of simply positive and negative polarity.
Like what? Yeah.
This will really have no frame of reference for you. It almost does not have a frame of reference for us.
Bashar?
Good.
That's something I want to discuss with you. But also, it's break time. So, can we take a break and then discuss it with you after the break?
All right. You may... Oh, very short break. All right, I'll say. Barbara.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I want to talk to you about Sancha that I've been channeling for the... Okay. Number one, have two parts. Number one is I understand her at this point to be predominantly serious fifth density energy.
All right.
I don't have a lot of information on that at this time. Is it the timing to find out anything more about?
Do you wish to be obvious about them?
Do I wish to be obvious? Yes.
All right. Then, in the asking of the question, in one sense, if that is the way you wish to ask the question, that is the answer. Is it the timing to know more? Do you know more? No, that is the answer.
Okay. Now is a new time.
All right. How have you created yourself to be now? In your recognition of your relationship to Sancha.
I'm allowing you to be an obvious reflection of what I already know.
Pretty sneaky. All right. One moment. Stand up.
Should I touch you?
Stop now. Rings and doorways. Combinations, as you would call them, to unlocking different aspects, different probabilities, can be the energy that comes through your solar plexus. The idea that you can function as a series of gateway, rings, and doorways that reflect different combinations of probabilities to different individuals, in that you can represent yourself as a reflection with the idea of Sancha and the Sirius energy as a crystal in which a series of reflections can be viewed by different individuals. You can think of yourself as presenting yourself as a series of probabilities in one simultaneous presentation. Through the intention, doorway, chakra, solar plexus, allow yourself to perceive that the white light of your blending comes through in much the same fashion, though it may take on a transparent, ghostly, milky quality in coming through that chakra. Allow yourself to view it as the smooth, reflective alabaster surface of a mirror in which other individuals within the milky substance and fluid can see reflected from you all probabilities that they can participate with you in that you are constantly fluctuating between the ideas as you are presenting them of quasi-planar reality, mass energy conversions, thus always functioning as a timing strobe in a sense for individuals and yourself to recognize the many probabilities that come with each event. Sid.
Thank you, Bashar. Now, one other thing that you may have already included that with the idea of the white light, but right now I'm increasing the energy of Sancha, allowing her, or it feels like a female type energy, to come through more, the emotionality to come through more, and allowing myself to step back more.
This is why we say utilize the solar plexus chakra, the chakra of intention, and simply view yourself that as the energy comes through you, it will pour out of that area and form a magic mirror of reflection.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Bashar?
Thank you.
Are we going to be able to hear from Arcturus again soon?
Soon.
Oh, can I ask? I'd like to ask you a question about something. My big dog Manabar attacked my little dog, the new edition.
All right.
And
do you remember what we shared about the ideas that they represented?
Yes, but I couldn't really figure out in terms of, well, he's done that with Jamie once, and from an obvious point of view, he must assert his dominance, and I suppose it has something to do with...
It has to do with the idea of tradition.
Tradition?
The idea that we're now exploring is the uprooting of tradition in terms of the idea of what is now comfortable. The dog is reflecting that there is a sensing that you are uprooting tradition, and in this way may reflect some minute hesitations within you to exemplify that completely as you may like to, by indicating that you may have reservations and allow the traditional aspects, the foundational aspects of your transformation to conflict a little bit with the new elements of sensitivity.
Interesting. Now, in terms of negative emotions that we mentioned earlier, obviously when this happened, I got very scared.
Obviously?
Well, I did get very scared.
All right. Allow yourself to give love equally to both, and in this way nurture them both and let them both know as a representational symbol to you and yourself within. As you nurture them, you are nurturing yourself to understand that you can blend the idea that you are not getting rid of anything, that something that is tradition is not losing its place, but simply in this way forming a new tradition.
Okay.
Seeing a reflection of the new within itself and coming to equal terms with it, so that both are comfortable within the blended environment.
Okay, I understand that. Thank you. The question related to that was that when I got so scared, I was sort of comparing that emotion to those 50-second anger kind of thing. It was like my heart was beating real fast.
All right.
And it wasn't the fear, I think, that we were talking about earlier. It was just a reaction, just like when you have the 15-second anger.
All right. But that energy accelerated you you so that you could form a blending of those supposed dichotomies.
Thank you very much.
So that your fear could be channeled into the idea of compassion outwardly rather than fear inwardly.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bashar?
One moment.
Yes, what's going on?
Well, now that you have allowed yourself the opportunity of reflection, of release and centering, how do you stand with yourself?
I feel much more centered and much different now than I did a little while ago.
All right. You have made the choice to do so. It is totally under your control. Recognize that as far as life is concerned, you are not asleep at the wheel. You are going where you need to be going, exactly as fast as you need to get there. Is there anything else you wish to share at this time?
Well, I had, of course, a million questions.
Of course. Why of course? If you have a million questions, you have one answer for each and every one of them. Questions are only answers that are separated from yourself. Again, if you can even conceive of the notion, it does not matter whether you put it into a form you call a question or not. The conception even of a question shows you that you contain the information. Putting it in a question form is only having the information separate from yourself, to act as a reflection to show you what you do contain, as a reminder. Simply because you are used to receiving reflections from seemingly outside. So you create the information within yourself to come to conscious recognition from an unconscious state of being by creating something that is a form in which you can recognize it consciously, a form you will allow yourself to recognize it consciously in, a question. This does not mean you cannot ask one.
Oh. Okay, the being that appeared before me last week. I'm confused about the being that appeared before me last week as to whether it was outside of myself or a higher version of myself or an entity wanting to be channeled. Or
may I ask you a question? What difference would it make?
Well, it would make a lot of difference because then I would feel better.
You would feel better.
If I knew how to address this person. I mean, it's impolite.
Impolite? That is a concept in your reality.
Yes.
Do you think that the consciousness thinks you are being impolite?
Well, I don't know what...
Yes, you do.
Well,
what do you think the consciousness thinks? If the consciousness were something that you would allow yourself to think it is, how would you think it would think? Pretend you know what it is.
Pretend I know what it is.
Okay. Right now, pick one. Pick anything. What is it? I'll let you get away for a while with pretending. So your choice does not have to be chiseled in steel. Pretend it is something. Anything will do. What is it?
Okay, I'll pretend that it is a wise old being from long ago and far away, or in the future and far away.
All right.
An outer.
All right.
Being rather than an inner.
All right. Although later I will ask you again, what is the difference? However, for now it is a wise old being from far away, past, future, who knows. Now, since it is, in your estimation, a wise old being, what do you think it thinks of you?
they must think I'm pretty swell and love me a lot.
All right. You mean exactly as you are?
Yes.
No matter whether you know what to call it or not?
Yes.
Then what difference does it make? Why not simply relate to it as you feel like relating to it? It doesn't care what you call it. It will still relate with you. It won't be offended.
I guess I have an expectation that it's going to introduce itself with a name like everybody else's entity seems to have names.
It might. It might not. Everybody else's entities don't always have names.
You call it Jones.
Yes, you can. Good a vibration as any.
A lot of Jones entities don't have names.
All right. Then, by simply granting yourself the equality of knowing that however you wish to interact with it, you will be able to keep up with the Joneses. Simply recognize that if and when a labeling of any type is necessary, it will be there. In whatever form it needs to be there. If it isn't there, you don't need one yet. Relate to it on whatever level you are relating to it upon. Call it whatever you will. It doesn't matter. The important idea is simply to relate to it as you feel so inclined. Let the interaction commence.
I felt a tiny little bit of fear, and then I was afraid that feeling the fear would put it off a little bit. So
once again, what you are receiving, because of the definition of your understanding of what it is non-judgmental. It is not going to be put off.
Okay.
But it is going to wait for you to make up your mind whether you want to interact or not. And not need so many proper formalities of etiquette before you will let it be all right to interact with. It will be comfortable in whatever house you provide.
Oh. Okay.
That is its nature.
I thought maybe I had to abide by some regulations.
Only that you love yourself and stop pushing yourself so hard. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
One of the greatest difficulties I have in opening myself up to and realizing the synchronicity of all is the feeling of vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Good one. Vulnerability is not weakness. Do you think it is?
No, I think there's a strength in...
A strength? Vulnerability is strength. Vulnerability. Complete vulnerability. Pay attention. Follow along. Is being open to everything. Being open to all that is. Being open to all that is being connected to all that is. Being connected to all that is a position of ultimate strength. Vulnerability is strength. It is trust. It is knowing that to open yourself up to all that is, then you will be supported by all that is. Because all that is, once you allow yourself to recognize yourself as an integral part of all that is, you then create yourself to function like an integral part. And all that is would not be all that is without you. Therefore, vulnerability is strength by definition. Judgment is what creates the feeling of weakness, not vulnerability.
Judgment on yourself, right?
Yes. There is nothing else.
There is no one else to judge. Judgment of others is judgment of yourself. Judgment from others, if you accept it, is judgment of yourself. Evolve.
Yes. There are a lot of different frequencies of
So,
energy.
the idea of unity is to grant equal validity to all the diversity within creation. Again, allowing all the ways all that it has of expressing itself to be equal on their own terms. Does not mean it has to affect your life. Just because you recognize that there are other frequencies doesn't mean that one of those frequencies has anything at all to do with the life you know your frequency to be, if you simply recognize that it has nothing to do with you.
Okay.
Just because you are, quote-unquote, exposed to the reality that other beings have chosen other ways to live and other ways to present their version of all that is to you, doesn't mean that you have to feel it as being forced down your throat.
Okay, I personally have been very influenced by other energies in my environment. Is that just...
It is your choice to be influenced. Nothing influences you but you. Nothing. They are offerings. How would you like to be influenced by old pollution? Yes? No. Yes. Thank you? No. Thank you. It is up to you to be influenced. But you create your version of that gift in your reality if you are experiencing it. You have to create it for yourself in order to experience it. So all you are doing is agreeing that it would be for you an appropriate thing to create. If you simply understand that the tool you are being offered is equal to any other tool, is valid, if you should decide to accept it, it will serve you because you do not accept anything else. But if you simply recognize that it is a tool you do not need and that you can learn what you need to learn in other ways, in ways you consider to be more positive, then simply recognize that it does not have to manifest in your life. That if you recognize what the purpose would be should you have accepted that idea, then you can also recognize that the same purpose can be served by creating another way in which it can manifest in your life. One that is more relevant to the vibration you know is true for you. Does that assist you?
Yeah.
But
And I still have difficulty with it.
do you understand that the phrase, I still have difficulty with it, is only a belief?
Okay.
Why do you insist that that is a part of your reality?
Probably because it always has been.
So what? One moment is not connected to the next. Now is now. Has nothing to do with the past, unless you choose to make a connection. The present is not a result of the past. Now is now. It is always a new now. Just because you may choose to define each and every now as seemingly similar to the last one does not mean it has to be.
Okay, then what's your advice for clearing oneself of these fixed ideas?
What I just told you. Recognizing that every single moment in time is its own separate now. Now is now, and not the now you used to be a moment ago. The only things you experience in any given now are the result of what you define your reality to be according to what you believe it should be. Redefine your reality. In other words, if you simply recognize that you have a choice between the preference, the opportunity to believe, it is difficult for me, it is easy for me, which one do you prefer? Well, which one do you prefer? It is difficult for me to change, it is easy for me to change. Which one do you prefer? You are making your choice right now. Because you are choosing to make it difficult to choose a preference. Which one do you prefer?
The difficult.
Why? Obviously, if you prefer it to be difficult,
I need to learn from it.
It must serve you. However, you can also understand that the opportunity to choose to prefer that it is easy is always just as equal a choice at any given moment. At any moment whatsoever, you have the option of saying, all right, I am through with the belief that it is difficult. Now I will choose that it is easy. And as soon as you truly do choose it, it will be easy. Understand something, once again. Change is the only constant in the universe. Things are always changing, always transforming, are they not?
Yeah.
Then recognize that is what happens anyway. What you think always stays the same is never the same. Never. Every moment is a new moment. Even when it seems to be the same as the last moment, it is a new version of the idea. You are creating the idea that there is a continuity. You are creating in the new moment a continuance of the idea that nothing has changed. That is how you create the scenario that makes it seem as if changing is difficult. You are doing it all the time. But you are changing into ideas that allow you to think nothing has changed. But that is the definition you are creating.
If I'm not the same me that I was a minute ago,
Yay.
and
Come on, you are getting it.
well, what happens to identity, and where does memory come into play?
Oh, very good. Identity, your personality construct, is in a sense an artificial construct, created of three things: belief, emotion, and thought. It is a prism through which the white light of your consciousness is broken down into the spectrum of the physical reality. Your identity is always changing. You as a person is always changing. The person is not a fixed thing. The consciousness is, in a sense, but the person is never fixed. Do you not understand that you yourselves recognize that many times individuals go through situations, and when they emerge from these situations, you say, well, you're an entirely different person, aren't you? It is true. Same consciousness. You recognize the consciousness, but it is a different person, a different personality, which is the same thing. It is an artificial construct that now has been tailored to fit the new idea that the consciousness is willing to be. Memory is created in the present as well. You may think you are dredging something up from the past, but if you really stop and understand it and think about it, you recognize you are creating memory in the present. Therefore, the idea is that you will find that many individuals begin to forget the so-called past in force density because they are beginning to recognize that they will know what they need to know in the present when they need to know it, and do not have to have an association with the past in order to know what they need to know. Everything is created in the present. Everything. The present is the only time in which you ever exist, is it not? No matter when you are, isn't it always now? Well, can you recall a time ever when you could say it is not now? Yes or no? Yes or no?
I can look at myself at other times.
You are doing that now.
Okay.
In other words, let me rephrase it. Anything you can ever experience yourself doing is always now. You follow me?
Yeah.
You are experiencing the idea of a memory of the past now. When you were, quote unquote, living that past, it was still now when you were living it, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
There is always and only ever will be now. It is the only time there is now.
Is it the same moment all the time?
It is one eternal moment that can transform into different versions of itself. Yes. It does so and is so simultaneously. But because you have created a reality in which you have the idea of linear time, it does not seem to be the same moment. But it is. As we said, all things are one thing in different manifestations at the same time, including the perception of linear time. That is one manifestation of now existence. Because the only time you ever perceive linear time is from the now. You relate to the past and the future from the present. You do not relate to the present from the future. You follow me?
Yes.
All is now. Does that assist you?
Yes.
Choose what you wish to be now. All choices are equal. All choices are equal. Allowing all choices to be equal is what allows you to choose easily, because then nothing is beyond your reach. They are all on the same level. You follow me? Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
What I wanted to talk about was a feeling of danger that I have experienced a lot.
All right. Danger.
Danger.
Come on, everyone. Ooh, ooh.
Well, it has to do with public recognition.
Public recognition.
Yes. Being like my name being known.
Yes.
Because I'm in the art. And
So?
It scares me.
Why?
Why? I don't know. It feels like it's from another life or something, to be quite honest.
What life? Do you think maybe you did a bad job once and somebody stoned you?
Could be. I don't. I had a dream the other night that I was with a group of people in the theater.
Okay.
And this very golden, large light came.
Okay.
And it was very powerful.
Okay.
I knew whoever stepped into it was going to be killed.
Killed?
Yeah, right. So before you go into it and get killed.
Okay.
And I don't know where I would have that here now. But from when I was younger, I felt fear.
Do you know what you are afraid of?
Being killed, yeah. Being somehow.
What does being killed mean? What is death?
Well, not transition. That's not clear.
Then why make a difference between transformation and death?
Well, maybe that's not the right word.
May I suggest what you are afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
Your own power.
Yes, yes.
Do you feel that it is something you might misuse? Do you feel that you cannot feel that extent of your own power without the idea of continuing to function within integrity? Do you think it will get out of hand?
I never would. I don't think consciously that I would misuse it. Maybe I do unconsciously. I think that
all right.
the responsibility.
Let's do this. Right now, in your imagination, imagine that you are, quote unquote, successful. What does it feel like?
Well, it feels good.
All right, it feels good. Define, therefore, now that you are feeling good, what success represents. What is going on to let you know you are, quote unquote, successful? How do you know you are successful? This is, let us say, an interview at a time when you are successful. So tell us, how do you know you are successful? Who let you know this? How did you find out that you were successful? What are some of the signs?
Well, I just know how I feel now.
How you feel? How do you feel? What does that mean?
I say what I think.
You say what you think.
Yeah.
I see. That is being successful then. Freedom of expression, is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
All right, freedom of expression. Check that. Anything else? Are there any other signs that you needed to allow you to know you were now successful? What other signs did you create? What other feedback?
Did I create?
Now that you are successful, what's going on? Are you being mobbed with adoring fans? Is this one of the IDs that lets you know you are successful, or is it some other sign?
No, I'm working with, I'm meeting a lot of people.
People you enjoy working with?
Yeah. And having ideas that I, having new possibilities, not just the things I had thought of last year, each that I give off sends another person to me, and we create
new forms of expression.
Yeah.
Same thing, freedom of expression.
Hmm.
Anything else?
A lot of fun dancing.
More freedom of expression?
Yes.
This is not going to be a very long article.
I don't work part-time at the Writers Guild typing, but that's...
All right. So you are saying that you prefer not to?
Right.
All right. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to me, therefore, that before you allowed yourself to know that you were successful, something within your belief system said that freedom of expression was dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you are maybe saying is that you feel that you have created a scenario at some time in your life when you got negative feedback for expressing yourself freely, and maybe now are afraid to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
thank you. I am not going to hurt you for expressing yourself. I can't. No one can. Only you can. You think that what you have to share is worth sharing?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, all right, you seem very sure.
Oh, boy. Well, I'd like to.
Oh,
I don't know if it's worth it, but...
Same thing. Same thing. If that is what is your excitement, if that is what is your preference, then it is worth it. For you are willing to be the individual that you know yourself to be now. Recognize, if in a so-called past life or even in the past of your present life, you found that expressing yourself attracted, let us say, a negative reaction, then that is simply your opportunity to recognize that other individuals can recognize your power and can, in your situation, present you an opportunity to decide whether or not that power is something you will choose to keep.
At the last part of the sentence, I lost it. The other individuals?
Individuals who may recognize that you are willing to express yourself freely may find that that causes a reaction, reflection within themselves. Since they may not believe they can express themselves fully, they may not want to see anyone else do so. So they give you an opportunity to decide whether you will accept the belief that if they can't do it or don't think they can do it, that you shouldn't, or that you still can, regardless of what they have chosen for themselves, and recognize that in your willingness to continue to express yourself freely, you offer them the best opportunity to see in your reflection in which they can also choose to express themselves freely.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. One moment. You are a gift. Your own unique manifestation of all that is. by always being fully willing to express yourself as that gift, you will always be supported by all that is. Again, synchronicity. Live life. Act it out. Love it. It is what you are. You are life itself. Breathe it in, breathe it out. The golden globe is your own power, and it has the power to transform you from the child that was restricted into, in your terms, an adult that is limitless. The child, in a sense, while always with you, is in fact dead. So in this way, recognize that its death has allowed for the birth of an adult that is limitless. For only the aspect of the child that you were holding on to is what felt repressed. You know, children should be seen and not heard, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Now you can be seen and heard, and you will be enjoyed. I thank you.
Thank you. In relation to the idea that we come to this planet as a learning planet, do we take on do we choose before coming to this planet as a schoolroom and choose certain individuals and certain...
Basically, yes.
Certain
yes.
circumstances
yes.
and people?
Yes.
So... a certain person.
There is no accident.
Okay, but then at the time and point where it becomes uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable?
Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. That may be part of the lesson.
Okay, would you then consider that to be a place where you could see it differently and send love and release that, or would you say that that's an indication for parting?
Can be. Again, the idea is that it doesn't have to translate into discomfort, but simply the recognition that the vibration is not representative of your particular vibration. You do not have to allow it to translate as far as discomfort.
So if you had harmony up until a certain point, and then you got...
You still have harmony. Mm-hmm. You may have a different definition of your vibration and another individual's vibration, but recognizing that difference and granting equality and validity to it still creates harmony, even if it defines the physical reality as something that will separate. That is still a harmonious decision.
So, but you also could create the idea of staying together too.
Yes, you could.
But would you then go back to the idea that there is a overall predestined choice that we've made in this planet?
What we are sharing with you is to simply allow your physical reality to be an obvious reflection of what you have chosen to experience. And if you find that there are, in your terms, unlike vibrations where there used to be like vibrations, then it is an indication that things are changing according to the path and the plan you create yourself to be. The way to find out if it is going to stay around is to let it go. For understand that even if it seems to stay around by changing, it is not the same situation anywhere. You follow me?
Okay, yeah.
Does that assist you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bashar.
Hey.
Put it out of my mind. So I wanted to ask you, you talked one night about trust being the activating force.
Hey.
Could you reflect on that some more? I found that to be very useful to me. I've been thinking a lot about it, and I wondered if you could give it some more dimensions for me.
It is simply your willingness to understand that every idea comes complete with all the ingredients necessary for the manifestation of that idea. That nothing comes incomplete. So that if you are willing to be an idea and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that that is simply the idea that represents the vibration that feels best to you, then everything that will be necessary to support you in being that idea will automatically, synchronistically, be presented to you in your life. Opportunities you can act upon that will always reinforce the idea you are willing to be.
And if you go with your feelings about a situation and the things that you think you need for that situation aren't there,
you don't need them.
Then you don't need them.
Correct. Allow yourself to be open to the fact that whatever you do need is there by definition. Simply assume you have whatever you need, and therefore if you need anything else, it will be there.
So you just go with your feelings at all times.
That excitement is the vibration, your physiological translation of the vibration that represents the path you chose to be. Follow what excites you.
And I want to ask you one other thing. The animal kingdom, the mineral kingdom, and the vegetable kingdom, are they, all the beings or entities in those kingdoms, are they evolving toward the human experience?
In a sense, but recognize again that only from your point of view is time linear.
Right.
Therefore, this is a simultaneous occurrence. It is not that they are, so to speak, exactly evolving. Your concept through time is of evolution.
Right.
You may find that it is just as valid to look at it as if you decided in this way to have an entire series of human reincarnations in this way, and then, in a sense, after the fact, perhaps project your consciousness into the idea of the mineral kingdom. Just because. Now, because of what you have created linear time to be, once you are in linear time, you may then look at the circumstances as having projected yourself into the mineral kingdom first, and then the human kingdom later, simply because you think of it as an evolutionary process.
Okay.
But in this way, there is the idea of consciousness transforming into other types, so to speak, of consciousness. Yes.
I was just wondering if we would experience all aspects of the physical experience,
Yes.
like the mineral, vegetable, animal,
Yes.
and if we would do it.
If you wish to look at it in a linear progression, you may look at it this way. The idea is that you are first and foremost non-physical. So you got used to physicality in varying stages of complexity, arriving, so to speak, where you are now, and moving on.
And because the human is a more aware, supposedly a more aware, or as we see it, that would be the end of the line.
It is aware in a different way, in a way that allows for self-reflection, whereas the majority of other consciousness that you are describing simply knows what it is without the need for self-reflection.
Could that be a higher form of being, just knowing what you are?
In a sense, but recognize that it is in your terms higher to have had the reflection and then include it in the knowingness.
So it just goes around, kind of. You experience it all, and then you evolve on to other things.
Okay.
Out of the physical.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bashar?
You. All right, you. Then you. You.
Thank you. Could you talk a little bit about the power of prayer, the power of using like your intention and
Louder?
The power of prayer?
Yes. It is being in communication with all that is. It is knowing and recognizing the connection. It is recognizing that that is what you are. It is again, once again, the allowance of synchronicity. That is prayer.
What about like praying for another?
You can always feel that you are connected to everyone, everything, and always radiate your compassion for them, but recognize that the idea of praying for someone else does not necessarily have to include the idea that you are reinforcing that you think they need it. Because then you are only sending the vibration that they are something less than what you imagine they should be. The idea is simply that you support them as they are and trust, know that what they have chosen to be will serve them, and that they can choose to recognize it and then choose what they prefer. That is how you pray for someone else. You follow me?
Yes. What about for yourself?
We have already discussed that. The idea of simply trusting.
that your life as it is what you have chosen it to be. That you are in control of everything you experience, that it serves you. Let it, and you will see how it does. Then you will choose what to prefer. Praying, again, is simply being in touch with all the different levels upon which you exist. And trusting that how any particular level manifests itself is the result of being in touch with all the other levels, and not the result of not being in touch. Did you catch that? Prayer is the trust that, in this way, what is happening in your life is the result of being in touch with all levels of yourself, and not the result of not being in touch. Trust. That is direct communication to all that is, which is prayer. Well, that has answered your question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Bashar, this Friday is a very significant,
consciously. Congratulations.
Thank you. But it's bringing up a lot of emotionality.
Congratulations again. More surprise. Congratulations again.
A lot of surprise.
Yay.
I want to solicit maybe some of your help. And
what are you going to do now?
That's the interesting part. I don't know.
Yes, you do. What excites you?
Well, I have a lot of things that I call projects.
Yes. Do any of them excite you?
Yes, and many of them are taking the form of businesses, one particular business, which can happen. And what's happening is, I realized the last 15 years were a struggle for me.
Oh, right.
And it was a profession that I did out of necessity to raise my family, and I'm at a point where I don't
Out of choice,
but I didn't understand the metaphysical practice
right.
I'm doing now.
All right.
And didn't even realize how much of a struggle it was. So by choice, I'm choosing to not struggle in this new
Congratulations.
life, okay? And I'm going through almost like a sadness, because I'm starting
remnants of your judgment,
yes,
that is all.
No, but I'm starting to remember with fondness some of the actual struggle.
All right.
What I used to think was a negative thing, I don't know why this is happening.
Yes, you do. You are integrating. You are allowing everything in your life to be equal to everything else and let it serve you. So the memories you are creating from the present of the past are now fond.
It doesn't feel painful. It feels almost melancholy.
Yes.
And something happened which which brought this to my consciousness, which is why because I'm sweating and telling you this. I'm experiencing not a fear, but there's a lot of emotion around it.
Yes. You are vibrating, accelerating, combining, amalgamating.
Yesterday was my daughter's 6th grade graduation, and it represented the culmination of the years of child rearing that I feel I don't have to be so involved in. And so it's another example of this transition where I've accomplished something, and they have a symbol where you go through a graduation ceremony. It was very beautiful. And my whole family was there, and the whole experience was another form of integration, very pleasant experience. That night, which was last night, I lit a candle behind the crystal that I often use for meditation. And I can see through the crystal, if I want to open my eyes, the flame flickering. And I left it on all night, which I do many times. Just when I was waking up this morning, in those early hours as we speak about, I had an experience which felt like I was actually experiencing this, and I was judging it, thinking about it in my mind. The experience was, I saw the flame through the candle go out, and I said to myself in my dream, that's an amazing thing. I tuned into the crystal just as the flame was going out.
Synchronicity.
Okay, in my dream state. Okay, I don't know how much time elapsed, but all of a sudden I smelled this awful smell in real life, and the whole part of the candle had cracked the glass, and the wax was all over, and huge flames leapt up about maybe 2 feet high, and the thing was on fire. And I smelled it, which brought me awake. I jumped out of bed, and I blew it out, and I put the thing outside because it was, a lot of smoke. And all day long today, I've been affected by this, thinking we bring things to us that we have to learn from. What did I bring this to myself for? What do I need to learn from this? And I had an insight into that, and I want to share that with you.
Do share.
Well, I felt that in my bringing my consciousness to the dream state of the candle in the crystal,
Okay.
I extinguished my old life. Okay? A certain part of the past is literally going out.
Okay.
But a new flame is emerging, and it really happens. Okay?
Yes.
And in real life, the fire ignited.
Yes.
And it's literally knocking me. I'm very tired. I'm exhausted.
You will get used to it. As you blend your dream reality and your physical reality into one reality, it will ease up. You are removing the separation between the two levels because both are real. You have blended them in that incident and begun to accelerate. Anything that tires you out is only remnant judgment. You will acclimate. You are beginning to live your dream. Literally. Fourth density symptom. Congratulations.
So the fatigue is just part of the process.
For now.
And I feel like I've lost that spark of enthusiasm when you say the spark of motivation to live your life. I mean, this is tiring me out to the point where I just want to sleep, you know.
Then sleep.
Yeah.
Form the connection that will allow you to know that when you wake up, you will still be dreaming. And always awake when you are asleep. You will blend them. As you say, since you are creating it to take time, give it some time. Go easy on yourself. You have just graduated. Take a vacation.
Yes.
Thank you. Yay!
I wanted to share something. Last week I was channeling my friend, and when it was all over, I was getting up and I realized that I didn't need to channel them anymore. That I just knew. And I realized since then that I had actually integrated with him.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And it is very nice.
Thank you.
And I've also noticed some other things happening.
Do share.
Okay. I've noticed that my business has gotten very, very busy.
Okay.
At the same time, I have a lot less time.
Okay. When you integrate, you create less time.
Yes.
So in this way, it can be recognized that the time you have is all the time you need.
Okay. Okay. And then one other thing I noticed is my husband. It's like he's grasping for me. Like he feels like I'm disappearing.
Show him you are not disappearing. Simply allow the individual to see in you a reflection of the potential within himself. To know that nothing is ever lost.
Okay.
That a relationship continues forever, no matter what the definition. Thank you.
Bashar.
Philea. Our perception at this time of the golden ring, the vibrational tone that represents the blending you have created. Philea. Good.
Bashar, I'm so intrigued by your definitions of emotions. I just have one more.
Wait.
What is worry?
Worry?
Worry.
Worry.
Excuse me. Worry. Worry. WORRY.
Lack of trust.
It seems such a chronic state for me.
Chronic.
I know.
Are you worried about it? Understand that is when you allow yourself to trust that you can live in the moment now, then nothing will be chronic anymore. There won't be the sensation of the idea of the creation of enough time for there to be anything chronic within. Follow me? Mm-hmm. Only separation and judgment create time, more time, and allow enough time for things to happen chronically, like reincarnation. Thank you.
Bashar?
Yes.
I would like some assistance and guidance. I have a daughter who's 14, and I find with the idea of judgment, I find it very difficult not to be judgmental with my daughter, simply in the area of getting her to do schoolwork and just regular things that we do with teenagers.
Oh! She has taught you that it is easy for you to be judgmental.
Yeah. But I don't like it. I know.
Then don't do it.
Well, I feel that the area I have difficulty is I feel the responsibility to have her understand reading, writing, learning her schoolwork.
If you are willing to be responsible to her, then you don't have to be responsible for her.
That's where it gets difficult. Is
if you say so.
Yes, I do.
All right. What are you learning in creating such a difficulty of communication?
I'm not sure because I'm fighting with it all the time. What I would like to do is have her...
How about discussing, or have you, her feelings on what it is she is learning?
I have. There's not a high interest.
All right. What is there a high interest in?
At this present time, there doesn't seem to be too much.
Have you asked? Do you think you have presented yourself in such a way that she would feel comfortable in telling you?
Not recently.
Then why don't you? Find out what the interest is that is there. And perhaps by sharing the ideas that can be learned from that, you can adapt the interest in ways that will allow that individual, your daughter, to adapt the energy in her own ways to allow there to be the learning that needs to be there. If you allow the individual to learn in their own terms, with the energy that they define to be what will allow them to learn, rather than enforcing a particular methodology upon them, which you may think is the only way in which somebody can learn.
I personally, actually, I left out the aspect of my husband, who has a much stronger viewpoint on enforcing that she do her schoolwork and stuff, and I feel that I have to carry his torch. And I'm very tired.
Is it getting heavy?
Yeah. I don't want to do it.
All right. Then again, you can share with him as well the understanding that to find out what is the driving motivation of another individual is what will allow you to see how you can suggest to the other individual how they can use their own driving motivation to learn what they want to learn.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Recognize you have all chosen to be with each other.
Yes.
You are all teachers and learners.
Sure.
There will be, in your terms, a few moments remaining for this interaction, yes?
What do you mean by being responsible to? I understand the part about being responsible.
Also, being responsible to someone is being the most complete version of yourself you can be, so that they have an accurate reflection of you to see themselves within. Being fully who you are allows them the opportunity to see within you opportunities that they can then choose for themselves if they desire to. That is how you can assist someone, but not taking responsibility for what they have chosen to be, for that is their choice.
With children, it can be a problem. I know I have a 15...
It can be a what?
Well, a challenge or whatever.
It is a situation.
I have a 15-year-old son. I was listening to her talk, and I
Would you like to get the son and daughter together? Perhaps there may be much in common for the families to discuss.
With him, I realized he had the need to define himself now on his own terms, and I want
to be comfortable in allowing him to do that and still be harmonious together.
Then you can share the understanding that you have of what is being done, and simply reflect to that individual that every individual is as powerful as they need to be anything they want, without having to hurt anyone else to get it.
Yay!
So define a way, and simply recognize that if the individual comes upon a definition that requires that they enforce or force themselves upon someone else, there is an easier way.
Okay.
Yay!
I have a question regarding the animal consciousness, say, just take the animal consciousness and the human consciousness. Now, I have an understanding from readings with other channelings that the animal kingdom represented its own consciousness and didn't really cross into the human consciousness, that they could evolve in their own densities.
In a sense, yes, but there also is the opportunity for all levels of consciousness to transform into other levels of consciousness. This is not a reincarnational experience. This is something quite beyond that idea.
So you're saying both ideas are accurate depending on how they're presented?
Yes.
Is there any way you can expand that we would understand the idea beyond reincarnation?
Perhaps you may look at it this way. You are reincarnational in the idea of animal consciousness, as long as you remain within the idea of the identification as animal consciousness. After, quote-unquote, a long time, so to speak, maybe, there is the opportunity for the animal consciousness, or the fragment thereof, to recognize its connection, perhaps, to other different levels of consciousness, and form an attachment to it, and draw to itself assimilations of different portions of the consciousness of all that is, so that it can also interact in that way, but then it is no longer the idea of animal consciousness and not exactly the same thing that made the decision to do so in the first place. So it still has remained as animal consciousness. What has become human is its own reality and does not relate specifically to the idea that it is the animal that has become human.
Oh, so is it kind of like a split? Like a...
Sort of, kind of.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's good for now. Thank you.
All right.
Bashar?
Hey!
Last week you mentioned the time of 10 to 15 years before you would come here physically, and
Before it was possible.
Yes, and I take that to mean that our blending into the fourth density will determine that.
Right.
Whereas at another time you had said it was 6 to 7 years. I have to say that I like the 6 to 7 years.
Then perhaps that will be your reality.
I see. Oh, great, then. Just see it right out. The other question I have is that I've been experiencing, particularly now, all through the evening, almost a sense that I could jump out of my skin. It's a type of tension that seems to originate from the solar plexus.
Yes.
And
the chakra of intention, creative pressure.
Very much so.
The expansion of yourself to all different levels of yourself in physical terms, jumping out of your skin.
Yeah, that's all right. Then another interesting thing to that is that a year ago, September, I was told that I have a growth on my left ovary, in addition to the fact that my uterus is enlarged. Now, I've been trying to...
Trying?
Yes, trying. I can't grasp exactly what that represents. Those are reproductive organs. There is something growing there. It is not malignant or anything. It's just I had it checked by a sound scan, and I wonder if you have any insight into that.
Do you have children?
No.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
When? A few years?
Well, anytime. But
are you sure? Think about it.
Well, there has to
when would it be, in your terms, truly convenient?
When there's a daddy there, for starters.
All right.
And that would be convenient probably any time. There are numerous daddies around, but as far as them being fathers, that's another question.
So in this way, what you are saying is that it is entirely all right with you to put some sort of a regulatory phenomena upon your ability to reproduce at this time.
Absolutely. And that's what this represents.
Yes.
A growth on my ovary? That's fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. I'm having a baby. And it's just thing.
Let us say the idea is that it represents to you the plugging of a doorway.
Oh my God, you know.
Until the timing is correct.
Okay. That actually really indicates. That's so simple that that's lovely.
Be in touch with the consciousness. You will understand the timing, you will feel it. And in that way, the insistence will be removed.
Insistence? Wait a minute. What? Insistence? What insistence?
Insistence.
Gotcha.
Is everything so literal?
Many times, yes.
I mean,
for you will find that what you have created your language to be is usually a reflection of what you believe your reality to be.
Do different words have different energy frequencies?
Yes, they represent the concept, different frequencies. Many times, again, even what you have said, though we understand the way in which you usually mean it, the idea of something being amazing, you cannot fathom it.
Right.
You are lost in the maze.
Right.
That's amazing.
Do that to tell ourselves something if we're really listening to what we're saying?
Yes. This will give you an opportunity to understand that many, many more things than you realize are conscious choices if you would but listen to what you say about your reality. I have difficulty understanding this. That is a choice. Listen to yourself. You are choosing that reality. I have difficult. Wait a minute. Why? All right, it has served me. I have ease of understanding. Oh my. It was that easy. Now I understand. Understand. Stand under. Support. We will, at this time, extend to you the reminder that if you are willing now to understand the idea we have described, synchronicity, 1, 2, all is synchronicity, act like it with integrity. Explore the idea of coincidence and synchronicity in the literature that is available in your civilization. The coincidental occurrence of all of you doing so at the same time will increase the synchronicity in your lives. Explore. We thank you for the interaction of the gift of your consciousness this night of your time. You and us, all that is the sharing that continues forever. We bid you exciting synchronicity and a fond and loving good night.
If you haven't heard, Dr. Peebles is going to be at my home, and also Zero Nafu. So if you can come, we'd love to have you. We've got some brochures. Craig has some brochures here. So if you wanted to stop by one of us on the way out and grab one.
Lots of flyers with maps with easy directions.
Right, because they close the houses are, near here. And if you want to come and you can give us a check tonight. It's $12. Otherwise, it's $15 at the door. I hope to see you all. Thank you.